Now that is the first red star of the Chicago flag. The second red star is a little less vibey because it represents the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. I assume you all know the Great Chicago Fire, right? Prost in white, covered in 250,000 panels of 6 shades of white glazed terracotta, designed in 2009 by architect Adrian Smith. Now, Adrian Smith is he's a bit of a celebrity in architecture. Currently, he can get a PDF, so anybody can do it. So you get rec boats that get in the way. So when we blow that whistle, that's just us letting them know that we will not hesitate. Just so you guys know. But up here to our right, you're going to see this black box in architecture. Now, he had many students of architecture, many of which didn't share this minimalist philosophy. Which is funny, because the 2 buildings to your right were actually designed by his student, Bertram Goldberg, Marina's. 2 concrete cores. Each building is wrapped in 896 apartments. Picture each apartment back there shaped like a giant slice of pizza, so it's very narrow when you enter it, and George Nimitz. Now I want you to look at this building as a whole. You can see the center clock tower. I want to ask you for this clock tower to count energy and environmental design, LEED. That is the Oscars of architectural engineering. That building, bringing materials to sites, the amount of energy a building consumes, and much more. It's very difficult to get. This unit was the largest concrete building in this country until the Pentagon was built. This thing used to have its own zip code. 4.25. It was, it's a pretty historical, significant plot because the Wolf Tavern is located there, owned by Jim. I did not. You could Google it, and you will find that I work here. I just picked up this mic and started riffing. Random facts. You would never know. It's just something to think about. To your right, you're gonna see here has been vacant for 70 years because we could not design it such a narrow plot. On the west side of the river, on a 40-foot wide core. To give you a better idea of how narrow this base is, the base of this building, folks, is about the width of this boat. Yeah, now look up. You end up having to use what's called an damper system. Now this one in particular means there's 4 large tanks of water up there, 160,000 gallons each, covered. At the top shifts, water sloshes to the opposite end of the building, pulls the top in the opposite direction, so it operates as a counterweight system. So most buildings actually do this now. They balance themselves out. Some use weighted pendulums to do almost the exact same thing. To your right is 100 stone. Now with this building in particular, you'll notice the strong vertical emphasis, right? Notice how every window, they draw your eye to the top. When they're at floor level, they actually have this sprawling. This was the most popular style of architecture back in the 20s and 30s, predominantly because you have to think in the 20s and 30s, air conditioning hadn't been mass produced yet. So you needed to design a building that could naturally, was forced to close around World War II. Because, World War II steals into architecture and revolutionizes the way we see the form, thus creating a culture in Chicago at the intersection of good city planning and Lon Kahn. He's considered the Einstein of architectural engineering. He's engineered most of the major landmarks, including this. A great example of his work is this black box with X bracings on it. Now, here he was asked to design 2 trading floors with no pillars inside, so it wouldn't block hand signals. So he puts X bracings there so the weight gets put on the outside of the building. And now it's home to a fitness center next to a donut shop. So, we're gonna look straight at Willis Tower. Now, I'm from Chicago. It's called the Titanic, so, that's comforting. You see those 5 glass boxes up there? Those are called the sky deck. So you can walk into a solid glass box and look down 102 floors of air. You can see almost 4 different states out. That's why when you walk through Chicago, it never really feels cluttered here, right? Right? I mean, right? You can fit on the sidewalks in Chicago. There are alleyways for trash, so it's not out in the middle of the street. Which was the site of the Saguenay Hotel, nicknamed the Wigwam. If you rewind back to 1860, and I went there last summer, and offhandedly mentioned to the waiter that I was a tour guide, all of a sudden free stuff just started showing up at my table. To your right, you're going to see 333 West Wacker Drive by Cohn, Pedersen, and Fox in 1983. Now this is a style of architecture called contextualism. You'll notice the river bends and the entire building. I like that. And now it's a finish certificate. We do it every year. We've got this river green. To your right, you've got the river walk. You're able to walk all along the river completely uninterrupted. Take you down into Lower Wacker, tuck and roll. Because this was created around the automobile boom for the Burnham plant of 1909. One of the main shower that can get you from Lakeshore to I-90 through downtown in a matter of 8 minutes. Lower Wacker is where you load and unload buildings from their basements. City. And that's why if you're ever out in Chicago at night, it feels like the streets are completely empty because everything's being loaded up underneath the city. There's a whole other city operating underneath it. Yeah, that there. To your right, you're going to see 77 West Wacker Drive. By Ricardo, the modernist and reflective elements of glass. It's got Greek temple architecture at the top of the building, designed after the bell tower in the Florence Cathedral. It's my favorite building on the etc. To your right, the Leo Burnett Building, home to one of the largest ad agencies in the country, with a column within a column design. But we're going to look straight ahead of the boat and a little to the right. You're going to see a green building with a gold top. That's the Pendry Hotel, built in 1929 by the Burnham. Neither were the architects. They designed the building out of protest to look like a giant bottle of champagne. To your right, you're going to see the Jewelers Building, mixing the Beaux-Arts and French Renaissance styles. Decorative bottom with Tempe eddies in the first setback, little mini temples up there. And that dome at the top there was a former speakeasy. Up Warner's, Broadway. Alphabet has on blue there, still running today. Now, here, earlier, folks, I mentioned that Fort Dearborn is considered Chicago's beginning. Now, while that's true, it's not necessarily true because what it tends to be, this is their land. To your left is an Apple store. But behind it, you're going to see the Tribune Tower right here, built in 1925 by Howells and Hood in Belgium. Took first prize of $100,000 for most beautiful design of architecture back in the 20s. And at the end of this tour, these two brown buildings right over here. It's the largest hotel in Chicago with about 2,019 rooms. It's actually two separate buildings joined together at an underground atrium designed by Epstein and Sons. And it's surrounded by the Illinois Center. See that once again, that largely clad in Italian Carrara marble, which is the same marble Michelangelo used to sculpt his statue of David. But that's up here in North Carolina granite, which just goes to show you can't take marble for granite. Just behind it in a second, you're going to see it's a blue building with white undulating balconies. It's tucked away directly to our right behind this brown building, okay? Notice the white balconies there, they undulate. They create the feeling that water is cascading down the side of the building. The building's known as Aqua. Designed in 2009, Jeannie Gang completed it, and when she did, the wind off of it, there's just a couple of bros just shirtless being like, hey, I love you. I was like, all right, buddy, slow down. Yeah, so the problem is, right, the wind off the lake was too strong, and the wind tests they were doing, the building was not able to withstand all that wind. You would if you lived in there, you would notice the sway of it and get nauseous. So they cut out the 81st through 83rd floor of it, and permanently draining into the Des Plaines, into the Illinois, into the Mississippi, and down into the Gulf of Mexico. Chicago, thrilled. St. Louis,
아니, 내 얼굴이 너무 크게 나와서 비디오인 것 같은데.
Originally, what you were doing was insulting the establishment's quality when you put ketchup on everything. Like, that was the origin of this, and now it's become mostly a thing mostly for aesthetics.
뭐? 로스가 여기 저렇게 로스가 있어.